Friday at this time, hosts Dennis O'Brien and Susan Johnson interview guests who are involved in their community. The show challenges conventional thoughts, probes for answers, remembers the past, imagines the future, and gets to the heart of the matter. Let's Talk About It is brought to you by Columbia Ford Kia, Route 6 in Columbia, Connecticut, and Gates GMC Nissan, Route 66, the Boston Post Road, North Windham, USA. Opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of WILI staff, management, or sponsors. Now, let's join our hosts with their guests, and let's talk about it.
Hey, it's Dennis O'Brien. I'm here with Matt Rupar, but no Susan Johnson as of yet. She's dealing with IT problems at home. It's been going on all day, and it's very frustrating. But maybe she'll want to tell you about that. Probably she won't. Now I've just mentioned it. We're not going to get into it in depth. Last week, we had a split show, which we very seldom do. First half of the show, we had somebody, and the second half of the show, we had somebody else. Because Susan and I sometimes operate independently a lot. And sometimes we double book the show. So we had a split show, and we had a guest on last week. And at the end of the show, I said to her, we got to bring you back real soon. And it is real soon. And she's back. It's Sarah Dufresne, who lives in Mansfield, but most important to us here in Windham, she works in Willimantic at the...
I work at Holy Family Home and Shelter, but I also work per diem for Hartford Healthcare at the Ridge Recovery Center.
You're a busy person.
I'm a very busy person, yes.
I didn't think there was anybody busier than me, or perhaps Rob Zarnetsky, our new town manager, who came in the middle of budget process in last, I think January, February.
Yeah.
And, I think did a pretty good job in a very tough situation.
Yep,
anyway, Sarah Dufresne is extremely busy. We'll have a lot to talk about. I don't think we can cover it all in one show. We're going to have her back again to continue. And I was just, one of the things she mentioned at the end of the show, and I was real impressed with, I was impressed all the way through the show with what she does. And she mentioned how she was a candidate for the town council in Mansfield. And that struck a note with me. I spent 14 years as town attorney in Mansfield, ending probably about 10 years ago. And second best job I ever had, best job I ever had was as judge of probate in Windham. Mansfield job was great. I loved working up there. I loved working with Matt Hart especially, and all the folks up there, lots of them. I could name Sarah, who's now the town clerk.
Sarah Ann, yeah.
Mary Stanton was town clerk when I left.
Love Mary Stanton.
Mary Stanton. I love Mary Stanton, too.
She's a good lady.
I can't believe she's not there anymore. But Sarah Ann Chain, fantastic person. And, they have great staff up there. And I'm sure Sarah did a great job while she was there. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I got to mention Matt Rupar. As I was driving in, I heard a song from the second last song, not the one you did. A song called something about I was dying in Willimantic.
I will die in Willimantic.
I will die in Willimantic.
Yes.
Folks, that is not my song. I did not do that song, but it might happen.
You never know.
You never know. Every day is a good day. Every day here is a good day.
I don't think I've heard this song. Now I'm going to have to look for it.
I'm very happy to be here, and you could too. Because you're. Hopefully not. You got a long way to go. You're young, and so is Rupar. It's easy for the young to fool around with songs like "I Will Die Then, I Will Die Here," put up skeletons in front of their yard. But a lot of older people don't like that. I don't think I even liked that when I was younger. Anyway, that's just me, and we're here to talk to Sarah. But Rupar, that song sounded pretty good until I heard them singing "I Will Die in Willimantic" part. Because I thought the instrumental part was pretty darn good. I was coming down the hill when I heard it. Anyway, we're here to talk to Sarah about the many things she does. Got to talk a little bit first about the election.
Yeah.
And you ran for town council. Is your first time running for anything in Mansfield?
First time running for anything in Mansfield, yeah. So I worked for the town of Mansfield for about 9.5 years, and I could not run for public office as an employee.
Correct.
So I left there to come here to, work at the shelter, and this opportunity just kind of presented itself. the part of Mansfield that I missed the most was the working with the families, with the people, and that part that I love so much, that connection. So it was kind of a great way to do that on a different level, and really just kind of give back to my town, but also kind of throw my hat in that political arena.
That is really amazing because I feel the same way about myself, being a legal aid lawyer here for 23 years and becoming judge of probate and dealing with lots of people in poverty or in need, some other need, people who have lost relatives, husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, uncles, aunts, whatever, that needed a pat on the back and a kind word and some help. And that's what you do in the field you're in. And so we're basically in the same field doing similar things, but not the same. Anyway, so you worked there for 9.5 years, and you worked in a number of. So you were probably getting in there when I was getting out.
Yeah, because I did work there when Matt Hart was there, and I share your sentiments. He was an amazing, amazing man. So yeah, I worked in human services the whole time I was there. I started as the outreach social worker at the senior center. So I worked just with the senior population, and then I had the amazing opportunity to work in youth services for about 6 years of my time there. And while I was there, I did early childhood education, but I got to work in the schools. I got to do groups with kids. That's how I met a lot of the families that I still, call friends to this day. And that was my favorite, I think, opportunity there, because you just got to meet people, so many people, and all the schools and the teachers and the staff. Oh, it was great. And then I got this great idea when I was 40 to go to grad school and get my master's in social work, which doesn't everybody do that when they're 40?
No.
And no, they don't.
Susan went to law school in her 40s.
Yeah.
Older than 40.
And
Ooh, Susan's going to hurt. If she's listening, I'm going to be in trouble.
Uh-oh. So then once I got my master's, I was able to become the adult social worker there, and that was kind of where I ended my tenure, but I loved it. And if the opportunity at the shelter hadn't presented itself, I had always said that I was going to retire from the town. So it was a good experience. It definitely shaped my professional career, but I'm very excited to be back. And it felt so good the other day walking into town hall and, seeing those familiar faces, and it was good. It was I'm really looking forward to it.
So let's go back a little farther in your life. Where did you go to school?
I grew up in Brooklyn, Connecticut, and I went to Woodstock Academy for high school, and then I went to UConn for my undergrad. So
you're from Brooklyn, but not NY.
Nope, not NY.
Nice town. I know Susan Westrom from Brooklyn. I knew the first selectman, and the first selectman now is a guy who is a farmer, and
Tanner.
Yeah. And I had dealings with him because the probate court that I was in charge of was covered all of Windham County and half of Talon County, and I had Austin Tanner. It was the first selectman, and we had one court here for this area, and the other main seat of the court was in Brooklyn. And so I dealt with Austin Tanner, who was very good. And then there was a guy named Ives,
Rick Ives, yeah.
Rick Ives, who later became first selectman, and I had the great privilege of interviewing him several times on my former TV show, Wyndham Works. It was on TV for a long time, on the public access channel for Spectrum, Charter back then. Mm-hmm. And he was always willing to go on the show, and some weren't. Some people just don't want to go on the radio. They don't want to go on the TV part of it. And this show, as you know, because you were here last time, is being recorded, not only audio recorded, but visually also, which is why I had to clean up a little bit before I came here, because I was working all day, working over a hard computer, which wasn't responding to my every wish. Anyway, so where did you go to college?
UConn. So I got my undergrad at UConn in psychology. And while I was at UConn, I met my husband, who grew up in Mansfield. So he's lived in Mansfield forever. He went to Vinton and, lived there. And we've been together now for 20 years. So it was kind of a no-brainer. I just moved to Mansfield, and we have 2 kids. And it just kind of, I guess the rest is history, right?
Well, there's more. Where did you go to graduate school?
So I went to graduate school at this tiny little school called Brescia University in Owensboro, Kentucky.
Wow.
Yep. So it was an online only program
Okay.
and very small. So when I say small, my original cohort that I was with was only 6 of us, and only 4 of us actually made it through to graduation. So very small, an amazing opportunity just for, the staff to, student ratio. Our professors really had all the time in the world to work with us. It was a great experience, and I don't think I could have done it if it wasn't online. I worked full time, I went to school full time, and I had to do an internship to boot. So it kind of had to be online for it to work for me.
Sometimes even for people like you and me and Matt Rupar, there simply aren't enough hours in the day.
There
no
are
matter
not.
what you do.
People ask me that all the time. How do you do it? And I love to quote the movie Empire Records, where there is 24 useful hours in every day, and there is. So.
That's pretty good math.
Yep.
And I think, sometimes I've had days, not in recent years, but in my early years, where I used all 24 of them.
Sometimes I do. Yeah, I can't think of the last time
Not
I've done that. But.
not for a long time. When I was younger than you are now, because you revealed something to me about your age, and to our listeners as well, which is cool. And I do that myself sometimes, and that's great. So I was wondering if you went to the UConn school, which was in West Hartford.
I took some classes there.
Yeah.
I took like non-enrolled classes or non-matriculated classes, as they call, and
Yeah.
I did those for a couple of years.
Audited?
Yep.
Yeah. I went to law school on that same campus. It was there then. It hasn't been there for a long time, but the School of Social Work was there, and the UConn branch was there. I had gone to the UConn branch in Hartford, but it was in an old estate in Hartford, the Griswold Estate, on Asylum Avenue in Hartford, not in West Hartford. And then they moved the branch there, which was great because we had a bigger campus with more students. Made it a little more interesting for us law students who were, grinding it out. And so I took some courses that were joint courses, along with social work students, law and social science and that kind of stuff. And that was real interesting. I've always liked psych, things like that. I'm just into that. I'm not, My son, who unfortunately passed away, was a very, very smart kid, and he was into economics, and he was into math and science, like a typical male student. And but my daughter is too. She was an economics major, and she is doing very well. Anyway, so that's great. So you, when did you get into the campaign?
So yeah, that was actually another kind of weird thing.
Well, I knew you'd have a story.
Of course I have
we like
stories.
We like stories on
of
the
course.
show.
So
People that listen to us like the stories.
many, many years ago, it was early in my career in Mansfield. I was on a committee with the former mayor, Betsy Patterson.
Oh, yeah.
And we, always got along. Betsy's wonderful.
I worked with Betsy for all 14 of those years.
Yep, she's great. And so after one of our meetings, she was like, "You're so funny. You remind me so much of myself, like when I was young." And
Yeah.
she looked right at me and she said, "One day, Sarah, you're going to be mayor." And it was like this funny joke that, my coworkers started to call me like, "Oh, Mayor Dufresne." It was just ha.
Wow.
But I, at that point in time, kind of was like, you know what? Not necessarily mayor, but I would love to be on town council and kind of give back. And also at that same time, I had the pleasure of working with Terry Berthelot, who was a councilwoman at the time.
She wasn't there when I was there. It was after I left.
Yep, and she teaches at the university, and I had some of her students as my interns. And one time during our discussion, she made a comment that said that a social worker should be on every political platform. And that stuck with me. And during my master's and through a lot of my policy and advocacy classes, I think that desire for me to kind of get involved on a deeper level just became a passion. And I knew I wanted to do it. I kind of knew I had to do it. And I was out to dinner in July with my husband, and someone that I used to work with came in and said, "Oh, we miss you. We miss you at the town." And I said, "Oh, I've always thought about running for town council." And she goes, do it. This was on a Thursday. She said, the nominating committee's last meeting is
You
Tuesday.
did it just in time.
Yep. And she,
I know how it works.
yep. She goes, you have to send me your letter of interest tonight. She's like, you need to leave
Yeah,
this
you-
restaurant and you need to write me your letter of interest. And I need to get you in front of the nominating committee on Tuesday. And literally it was like a whirlwind, but I don't know. I'm a big believer in all things happen for a reason. So
Yeah, the stars were in the right place.
They
and,
were.
And you were in the right place, and that sounds great. They had an opening
Yep.
on the slate.
they had 2 openings.
2 openings,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
And when I was there, I worked with Greg Haddad. Greg Haddad was the person I probably keyed on, and because Greg comes from Willimantic, he was born and raised here. His father was Mooney Haddad, who's a legendary Little League coach. He's probably one of the few people that stayed in Little League coaching longer than I did. In fact, the baseball field is named after him, Munir Haddad Field. Greg Haddad is a brilliant guy,
He's awesome.
and he's fun to work with. And so I had a great time working with Greg. And Peter Kotchenberger was another one of my allies, and now he's in Texas, I think, teaching law school down there. He was a lawyer, and then of course Betsy Patterson. And you know, you said something about a social worker should be on every ballot or something.
Every political platform.
And I think a lawyer should be too.
Yeah.
And I think, until I and Charlie Critch got off the town council in Windham about 4 years ago. Charlie Critch was the chief litigator for the CCHRO, Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. Has his name on a lot of Supreme Court cases. Charlie moved to Pennsylvania. He's not here anymore. But we were on the council together, and him with his civil rights background. I have a civil rights background, but not like Charlie's. And me with my poverty law background and also my 25 years as a town attorney, it worked out really well. Now there's no lawyers on the council, but fortunately the guy they hired to be the new town manager is an attorney, Rob Zarnetsky, who once worked for Chris Dodd. So we are being well served in Mansfield and in Windham, and we're very lucky.
Yeah.
Mansfield and Windham are 2 great towns, and I guess if I had to pick one I love next to Windham, it would be New Britain, because that's where I was born and raised. And
Oh, my mom was born and raised in New Britain.
come on,
No, I'm serious.
what was your mom's name?
Her maiden name was Cadis.
I don't think so. I don't think I knew her.
You might have known some of her siblings, though. There was an Andrea Cadis and Nancy.
Don't know that name.
Okay.
New Britain was much bigger than either Mansfield or I'm probably older, a lot.
Not really.
Well, I left New Britain in 1968.
Okay.
I was 25 years old. Oh, I just told everybody how old I am. I've done it before, though. If you want to check the records, folks. I'm proud of it. I'm happy to be here. Never thought I'd make it this long. Never thought I'd still be on the radio, and I'm still going strong, and Susan is, and Matt Rupar is, and we're going to keep going. And this is the premiere show on WILI. It's been on by far the longest, except for Wayne Norman, okay, and John Tuitt. I mean, I have to bow down to them. They're the stars. They're the professionals. I'm just a rank amateur, but I love it. Anyway, so you did get elected. I think you were I thought you were the top vote getter, but actually the votes were out of order.
Yep.
You were number 2.
Yep. Well,
That's pretty good.
which is okay. I will take it. Lizzie Mullen and I were
Yeah.
the 2 new incumbents. And
She was new too?
No, not incumbents. The 2 new. Yeah, we were the 2 new
Challengers.
candidates. Yep. And we
Sort of challenges, yeah.
We got the most votes, and she's wonderful. And again, just reflecting on this whole journey, I feel so lucky to be with such a great group of people. We all get along so well, and it really is neat.
Yeah, when do you take office?
Officially on Monday, I get sworn in at 7 p.m.
You're sworn in already?
No, on Monday.
Oh, I
the
could swear
10th,
you in
yep.
right now. I'm legal.
They do a whole ceremony.
No, and I could do it on the air, but you better do it in your town.
Yeah.
I have sworn in people in other towns, notably Ashford when I was town attorney there. I won't say who, and also in Andover. I won't say who. But it's legal, but I had to write a letter to the town clerk saying I did it. But anyway, that's great. Our new officers take office on the 18th by charter of there was the third Tuesday of the month. They have a council meeting that month, that day. And I won't be here, but I can get sworn in anytime. I can have Susan swear me in. She's a lawyer too. But I won't. I'll probably have the town clerk swear me in. As a member of the, I'm not on the town council. I'm on the Willimantic Taxing District Board of Directors. What we are is mostly a board of finance for police and fire. In this town, police and fire is it's a big ticket expense. It's vitally, well, you're working here.
I do know, and I was actually, just to, a little caveat to that is, as I was driving in this morning, there was, emergency vehicles going down the road, and they were responding to something, and, as I get in my office, I hear them going out again, and I started thinking just how important the police and fire are here in this town.
They
and
sure are.
It actually gave me this moment of reflection where I was like, we are so lucky, because, even the times that we've needed them to respond to things at the shelter, always met with professionals, and they're just great. Both of them, the fire and police. Can't say enough good things.
We're lucky. I mean, it's a tough job. It's hard. It's got to be hard to find people who fit that sphere of responsibility, and they got to be tough, but they have to be mellow. And they have to have both sides, and they have to be able to work with people just like I did as a probate judge, and as you did in your job in Mansfield, and they do. For the most part, I mean, I've been connected to them for a long 6 years or so, maybe 8. But it's only been in the past 2 years where my only responsibility was police and fire. Before that, I was on the town council, and we had town council members who were automatically on this board. But the board we weren't really doing that well with it. We were too focused on the town council issues, and there's a lot of issues here. And we spent a lot of time with building projects. We built a new community center. We built a new parking garage on Main Street, the Shabu stage, and perhaps most importantly, the jewel in the crown was we renovated our high school. So that caused a lot of people in the region to take note and want to move here. And so real estate prices, they went up around the area, but in Wyndham they went way up on a percentage basis anyway. So you've been at the Holy Family Home and Shelter for how long now?
I started last July, so about a year and a half. And I was fortunate enough to be an intern there, actually. So prior to that, so I started in December of 23. And then I was hired in July of 24 as their director.
I think you mentioned the internship when you were here last week, but we didn't get into great detail on all of this stuff, so we can now.
Sure.
Well, we have some time. And I think so. You got you were in the graduate school program that you talked about, and you had an internship.
Yep, you have to as part of your social work.
Sure,
journey.
Yeah,
That's
a good idea.
That's a good idea. And in my role in Mansfield, I did a lot of grant work. I did a lot of grant writing, and I managed grants for early childhood.
Wow.
So someone had mentioned to connect with Marie Hackmiller, and they said, Marie, who volunteers at the shelter, and, again, huge shout out to her, because I don't think I could do my job without her. But I, reached out to her, who I had also known from Mansfield, because she did some stuff at the senior center for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And I kind of said, hey, can I come in there and get a little grant writing and internship experience? So I was able to do that. And it was, working for a municipality, you are considered a nonprofit, but it's different being on the ground in an actual nonprofit.
It's a lot different.
Yeah. And, you really have to think about where your money is coming from, and you have to work diligently to get it. So it was an amazing experience just to kind of see, personal local grants and charitable grants are so different than municipal grants and these state and federal grants. So it was a great learning experience. And, while I was there, I knew I wanted to eventually work into a leadership role. And one of the staff that was there, and I have to give her a shout out, Inez Roman. She lives in Willimantic.
I know her.
Yep. She always would say, Miss Sarah, you need to be our boss. And she probably said that every time I worked with her. And finally I was like, you know what? Yeah, I could do this. And, if you are fortunate enough to come in and show up anytime, I will give you a tour of the shelter. We really are a giant family. So, I knew instantly that I just felt so great there, and it was a no-brainer.
Well, I hope Inez is listening because she
I
lives
hope
in
so,
Willimantic.
too.
And I know where she lives. James Flores and I were together on Election Day again at the VFW, outside the VFW, and we went through a lot of our old stories. And one of our old stories was the time he and I spent, half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour at Inez's home being entertained by Inez during a campaign. And it was the campaign to pass a new middle school over on, what street is that? I should know. Corby Street. And we ended up winning that race, and James and I led the campaign, 1964 to 1960. We won by 4 votes. Wow. And every vote mattered, and it was not easy. It's not easy to get people in this day and age, or even back in 1994, to spend money. Even though the brunt in this town, we get a higher reimbursement rate for new school, or in a revised school or rehab school like the high school than you would in Mansfield. Anyway, I'm with Sarah Dufresne, who is got a lot of things to do, does a lot of things, always has. The old saying is, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And I can tell you from experience, that is true. That is as true as 101 is 2. And Matt Rupar is the same kind of person. He's going to let us go to break right now, and we'll be back right after these messages from our wonderful sponsors with Sarah Dufresne of Mansfield and Willimantic. Hey, Dennis O'Brien back on Let's Talk About It, and am I a lucky guy? We've got Sarah Dufresne here from Mansfield and Willimantic, and we have Matt Rupar from Willimantic. And now, guess who walked through the door during the break? It's Susan Johnson from Willimantic and Wyndham.
We're all about Wyndham.
We're all about Wyndham, yeah.
And Willimantic, and I'm
Right.
so glad to be here. I have been listening, but I've been working on working on my computers. So let me just say that and leave it at that. And we're still working on my computers after the show.
I'm not going to talk about how we did in the first half.
Oh, no, I loved the first half.
Oh,
I was
good.
listening to you.
Oh, good.
A very
Come on,
excellent job.
keep coming. Okay.
And nice work in terms of all the things that you've done for Mansfield. We learned a little bit more about your background, your academic background, and also we learned about some of the things that are going on at the Holy Family Shelter. So and I'm very, very pleased to have you back here because there are so many different programs that we have to take a look at to try and make sure that our parents, our moms and dads and little ones find a spot, and that's what you do, which is an enormously difficult thing to do. Because perhaps you have some temporary assistance for needy families, trying to get the housing first things through, and then of course just maintaining what's going on while you're in the Holy Family Shelter with the little ones and the families. So it's a big a lot of work and a lot of different programs. That back in the day, used to be just one program, but they smashed them all up, and that's one way to keep people off, and that's another thing that we'll be looking at again when we take a look at the big billionaire bill that was passed by the Republican congressional people and signed into law by President Trump. And he's taken the Medicaid programs, all the programs, and put them on transferred a lot of the cost to the states, and also made sure that there are more processing requirements that we didn't have, which also create problems because about 75% of all the people on any of these programs are employed, or they are disabled, or they're underage. What isn't that 25%? I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen the data on that. I do know 75% are employed, and so that's where we are. And I didn't want to take over for the wonderful conversations you've been having.
Over. Okay, a good speech.
But I'm so glad to have Sarah take it up from there and tell me what else.
I have some questions.
Sure.
I wanted to know what your capacity is in terms of. You noted that when you were here last week that you have more capacity than Sister Peter had when they started. quite a bit more because of help from the community and from some wise moves by whoever led the shelter at the time, including yourself, the last year and a half or so that you've been there, and you've added space.
Yeah, we doubled in capacity. Well, we doubled space wise in capacity, not bed wise. We used to be able to take 32, and now we can take up to 40. And we can take an additional 10 people on like an emergency basis, where if someone were to have no place to sleep and it is cold, they will knock on our door, no questions asked, a family, and we will take them in. Individuals gets tricky because of Project Hope, so that's kind of where that front line of defense would be for individuals. But we really can take families who might not have a place to go.
You are the only family shelter in this town and probably in this area.
Yeah, there's 3 shelters, family shelters on like this side of the state. And so there's us, and then there's a shelter in Danielson, and then there's one in New London. So they're spread pretty far out.
Yeah.
And the wait list just gets longer, especially this time of year, and especially in this current state of our country.
Right.
Yep.
And we do I think we will be having a deal when we go into session. The legislature will be in session on the 12th and 13th. The House goes in on the 12th, the Senate on the 13th. We finally have made connections in terms of getting everybody on board with the housing bill. So the housing bill, I haven't had a chance to look at the modifications, but it has been, of course, it's been heard over and over and over and over again. But I just want to remind everyone about the housing bill, because it's something that will actually, once we start moving and adding housing to the state of Connecticut, their property taxes will go down. One of the reasons we have high property taxes is because we have a housing shortage. The housing shortage causes the value of everybody's house to go up, but that also increases the property tax. It just as a reminder for everyone.
That's good. I mean, that's good information.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad, actually. But,
well, if you have more housing, your taxes will go down, but it's going to take a little time to develop that. So
yeah. I'm impressed that you can accommodate the need in this area with only 40 beds.
Yeah, and
that's got to be hard.
It is, and very few staff. I mean, I always
I was
am
ask
amazed.
That's my next question.
That we are open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and I have 3 full-time staff and a total of 10 staff, and we all work and we're open.
It's amazing.
It is
open 24/7.
Yeah.
Just you got to cover it 24/7.
24/7.
So we also have the domestic violence shelter.
Yep.
Do you know how many units are in that?
I do not.
But it's always full. Whenever I try to refer somebody there, especially when it's a family person, I end up saying, well, maybe the Holy Family Shelter has space. How many spaces do we have now in Project Hope?
So there's 20 beds there, but they also have their, I don't know if you got to go for a tour of it.
I didn't have time.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful. I did get into part of it, but I didn't get through the whole area.
Yeah, so they have 2 kind of like living room areas, and that will be able to also accommodate people who are unsheltered. So they'll be able to kind of like create these flex spaces, especially during cold weather. And again, shelters all across Connecticut, we are kind of given different parameters during cold weather that we can take people on these emergency basis, because we don't want people sleeping outside unsheltered.
It's very, very good. So, I know last year we were able to get in touch with the Department of Administrative Services and create more space for people who are homeless in the Congregational Church on Valley Street. So we were able to do that, but we had to go through a little bit of change because they had problems with access based on the fact that there were steps there going into that. So we're thinking, I think the people can make the steps more so than they'd want to be outside to freeze to death. But that was one of the things we had to try and fix, and we did. We were able to fix it.
You have to make do, and that's what you do in a situation like you have in the Holy Family Home and Shelter. Mm-hmm. It's a daily. Things change from day to day.
When I'm hiring new people, I say you have to be willing to pivot. Today, perfect example is, I was there, and on Fridays I work with actually the previous director of Mansfield Human Services, Pat Schneider. She comes and she's a volunteer there, and she helps make all the meals for the weekend. So we prepare all the meals for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I like to help her down there. And all of a sudden, I get a call that can we accommodate a family of 7? And sure. So, I went up when we had 2 volunteers there, and we were able to, move the room around and change it and get a, crib in there and a toddler bed and the bunk beds. And now there are 7 individual beds ready to go.
Amazing work.
Yep.
Amazing.
This reminds me of that federal case I did. I think it was in Meriden back in the 70s or early 80s when we sued a housing authority who wouldn't allow these people in because they had like 9 children. Mm-hmm. And what we did, we suggested to the Judge Clary from Danielson, who's long gone now, and he was a nice guy, and he was a good judge. And I suggested, Judge Clary, why can't we break down a wall and create 1 unit out of 2? And he thought about it. He said, "Go on." He sent us all out to the lobby while he was working it through, and came back and he says, "You're right. They got to do that." He ordered them to do it. And I was like, we were thrilled. It was just, fantastic. And, obviously, when there's only so much space, that may be taken away. But at the time, they had the room. Mm-hmm. And so not only did they get into a shelter, but they got into a housing authority with a Section 8 for a family with 9 kids. And it was just, I was almost in tears. It was just so, anyway, and that's the kind of thing you got to do.
It's kind of thing you got to do.
You got to make do.
We do.
Because it's not, these times are much harder.
Yeah, I mean, any day. And it's funny, like, I'll have interns, and they'll be like, what's a typical day like? And I'm like, wow. It's like, I do not know. I never know how to answer that question. There is not one.
A typical day is that there's no typical day.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I think that, again, brings this different level of, like, excitement, but also hope. I mean, it's so nice to leave that room today and look at it, and it is welcoming, and it is a space where this family is going to come here, and they're going to be warm, and it's going to be clean, and it's a fun place for them to be. So,
food. Talk about food. 'Cause I know Susan has many times after our campaigns or campaign events. Susan always says, "Take the food. If we have excess food, use it all. We buy a bunch of pizzas. We don't eat them. Buy a bunch of sandwiches. Bring them to the St. Joseph's."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's what we do. But you do have.
We are a licensed kitchen. I don't know if many of you know, but our building is the original Wyndham Hospital.
Yep.
Yes.
So, it has a dining room and a kitchen.
Yeah. You're anticipating my questions.
Yeah, in the basement. So we have a full kitchen, and we get a lot of donations, thankfully. We also get a lot of stuff through, statewide through like Food Share and other places like that. And we have a cook. So we provide warm home cooked lunch and dinner. Guests prepare their own breakfast, but we always have things available to them, cereal, oatmeal, milk,
sure.
all the things, fruit.
Basics.
One of the biggest things.
Like my breakfast.
Yeah. One of the biggest things and most important things to me when we started, and I was fortunate enough during my internship, was to help get them back on an assistance program through the state directly for funding for food and for healthy food for children. So, we do use, obviously, canned fruit, canned vegetables, but fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, every meal. It's so important to me, and it is something that we certainly believe in, and not the same things, It was like, I like to get fruits that they've never had and cut them up, and the kids are all funny about eating them, and vegetables that they've never tried.
You'd have trouble with me. I don't eat everything. But that's okay. I'd be happy.
Try it. You might like it.
I'd be happy, yeah.
But it's fun, watching kids being like, I'm not going to eat a Brussels sprout, and then they try it, and they're like, oh, it's pretty good.
I understand that.
Yeah. So we always have fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and we also like to we have a suggestion board that we leave up in the dining room, and because sometimes we run out of our own ideas of what we want to make. So let us know what you want to eat. And
wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
good for them.
It is. I'm trying to even think what did we do this weekend?
It empowers them.
We did like some homemade beef stew. Yeah, we always have.
Nice.
It's like the best food.
Wonderful.
It's so good.
That's great.
That is so
Very,
good.
very
And-
nice.
and
I wonder, are you connected with Click for the community license kitchen for the?
So we have not connected with Click, but this has been. I actually met with somebody because we have a garden this year. So
Great.
yes, we had a volunteer organization come through, and they planted us a garden outside in our playground, and it was extremely bountiful, which was amazing.
Wow.
And to the point where sometimes we had too much, and so someone mentioned that I should connect with Click so that we could maybe process some of it and store some of it so we could use it. So that's great that you mentioned that because I'm gonna have to do that because
That's great. Yeah, because they're really all about getting food, small areas that can process the food. I think it would be a great connection for both Click and for you. It would help promote, and it's one of my hopes since Click has started with Phoebe Godfrey and all the wonderful people that are there, that they actually are able to connect and then work with the local community, whether it's the schools, the soup kitchen, the Holy Family Shelter. All these places would be a great way to connect and try and utilize local food and, have it available instead of having it, have to be processed out of state someplace. So that's what they've been doing, and they've been doing an excellent job about it. So it'd be good to make some more of those connections.
I think you mentioned last week when you were here the connection between the Holy Family Home and Shelter and the soup kitchen, and Ray are meeting, and actually he's not in charge down there, but he's sort of the face of the place because he's a spokesman.
Yep.
We've had him on the show, and
great.
we've known Ray for a long time. Anyway, you do have a connection with them as well.
Yeah, so all of our little organizations that help people in Willimantic, we all work together, Willimantic and Wyndham. So Project Hope, the former No Freeze, and then we have WAME, and then we have the Soup Kitchen, and us. We all kind of interchangeably work together. So, if we ever have anything extra, here's a great example. We had someone call one day and they asked my staff, "Oh, do you want some bottled water?" Sure. So an entire box truck pulls up with it was 4,000 bottles of water.
Wow.
So it was
Wow.
I don't even remember how many cases of water, but we didn't even know what to do with this water.
Right,
so
right.
our first instinct was to automatically call these other organizations and be like, "This will be a benefit to you. Do you want to come and grab it?" So thanks to this donor, all of us have bottled water for the next year, hopefully. I don't know.
Wonderful.
But,
Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
we all work really well together, and we have, whenever we have excess of anything, even today we went through our pantry, we had too much canned stuff and cereal that we could use, and it got driven right over to the soup kitchen. So
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Great.
And that's fabulous. That's the kind of community spirit we have here, all working together. And we need to be able to, I'm hoping to expand it not just from Willimantic, but into other communities so that we can, for example, I know Senator Austin has been wanting a homeless shelter and access to resources in Norwich, and they don't have that right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I kept thinking about when you said New London, Willimantic, and not
Killingly.
Norwich.
Danielson.
Danielson.
Yeah.
Danielson Shelter's been there for a long time.
Yep.
A family shelter.
Yep.
And then yours, the Sister Peter started the second one. But I was wondering about Norwich.
They had one, and then they shut it down.
Oh, okay.
Same with
Yeah.
Manchester. They had one, and they shut it down a few years
Oh.
ago. Partially because of the requirement that they were not allowed to turn anybody away or try and find an alternative for somebody who was intoxicated.
Oh, I see.
And mixing intoxicated people with children and families was
Not a good idea,
Was a difficult
I would say.
situation. So
Only if it was basically
yeah.
a matter of individual survival for a few hours or a day or something.
But that's why
That's
That's why
too risky.
Manchester and Norwich closed.
Oh,
And
that's
that was under Malloy.
It's good to know.
Yeah. So what we need to do is make sure we have the family shelters, and then other places for people that have behavioral health disorders that they can go to. And we have yet to be able to refine that aspect of housing to that degree.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think we're demonstrating here with all the agencies in town that could be other folks in other parts of even in Eastern Connecticut could learn from, about working together
Absolutely.
and not, no level of competition. And, it's not an area that lends itself to being competitive, so it shouldn't be.
No.
On the other hand, sometimes just, one person, one agency doesn't talk to another. It's just they're too busy and they probably don't think it's that important. But here, it's obviously a priority, and that is important. That is so important that you become much more effective that way.
Agreed.
And it also is. It's good to it's one of the reasons I want to have you on this show, and to report to us, often, along with the soup kitchen and the Project Hope and whatnot, is so people in this town understand what we are what our town and the person of you and so many others and your volunteers and your donors are doing to really help people. And it's just like a lot of other things. When a basketball team wins a championship, it's a source of pride, community pride that should be known. I mean, I'm willing to volunteer us. I said this last week on Let's Talk About It, to be part-time publicity people for these agencies, including yours, because the story needs to be told.
Yeah,
And it's a wonderful story. It's an uplifting story. It's there's nothing at all negative about it, except the fact that it's needed.
That it's needed, right?
That-
And I
that's
mean,
all.
I was just thinking about blow your socks off. There was an article last year about how many meals I think the soup kitchen served.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Almost
yeah.
a
I
million.
mean, it's
Almost
it is
a million.
absolutely amazing.
yeah.
When I said that at the Capitol about a month ago, everybody went like their mouths all open and say, "Oh yeah, that's what's going on here," and that people don't understand it. We're running down to our last 2 minutes, and we want to make sure you get everything on the air.
Anything
or
that we haven't
summarize,
touched on that you want to talk about
Yeah.
that you think is important.
or summarize what we need to do for you, what the state needs to do, and how we can maybe do more with our surrounding towns as well.
In a minute and
Whatever-
40 seconds.
Yeah, I think right now definitely the need for food is out there. This is a huge need right now. Food pantries shelves are empty, and this is across the state. This is in all towns. So if you're listening and you want to donate, I would start there, because that's where your families, that's where your people are going when they're hungry. And the soup kitchen shelves are empty. We are fortunate enough at our facility to have funding to go out and purchase food, and they are not as lucky. So I would start there. And
Yeah, we can also announce that the Willimantic Lions Club is having a pancake breakfast on November 9th between 7:30 and 11 a.m. And they are collecting food for the Covenant Super Kitchen. So please come to the breakfast and donate some food.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, that was a great segue into all that. But yeah, I think, and just also to change that negative way that you're thinking about these people in need. It's a stigma that isn't necessary, and just
Isn't
open your
correct.
hearts. Yep, it's not correct. A lot of it, I love that you brought up the fact that 75% of these people work, and they work hard, and they're amazing parents, and they are just fighting in a system that's sometimes working against them.
Oh, it is working against them now. We don't have the supports that we had back in the day. They've all been obliterated over the last 40 years. So we are now working with that.
Okay, we're down to the end of the show, and Sarah Dufresne, it's great to have you back again.
Thanks for having me
after
back.
a long hiatus. And congratulations on your election to the Mansfield
you.
Town Council.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
great to have Susan Johnson walk in here and
Yeah, get a little break, get a break.
elucidate some other matters that we didn't touch on, and also Matt Rupart with his wonderful music that I
Yes.
mentioned earlier, as well as his great job, the great job he does as producer and keeps us on time. We'll be back next week with another great show.